So, why are the microstakes so profitable? Well, it's simple. Because you're only playing $2 games, $4 games, $5 games, and $10 games, at the lowest end of the microstakes, there are a lot of recreational players that are there to have fun and there to gamble, and they really don't care about how much money comes and goes. They're there to have fun. And there's also the people that just love to gamble and think they know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing. They really don't have a clue. And there's the people that just know enough to get themselves in trouble. So that's why the microstakes are so profitable. And I want to highlight this with some hands that I played this year. So I created a video just like this when I first released this course over a year ago. And I just want to show people that the games have not changed. There's just as many fishy players at today playing as there were a year ago. You just have to know how to seek them out and to play against them. So let's take a look. So in this hand, I have ace king suited, and we have a player that raises in middle position. We're only playing 5 ways. This is 10 and L. I 3-bet, and I 3-bet pretty big because I'm out of position. And I think I had a read on this opponent. Unfortunately, I don't have notes. I play in Bovada. It's anonymous. But I'm pretty sure this guy was super fishy, and he was somewhat aggro, and he overplayed his hands. So I wanted to build up a really big pot. So I put in a pretty big 3-bet. He calls. We flop top pair, top kicker. It's a bit of a wet board texture. So I bomb out a pretty large bet on the flop, and he raises all in, and I snap call, and we'll take a look at his hand. And he wakes up with ace-9 off, which is just a pure junk hand that he should never be playing in a 3-bet pot against a player like me, because he's going to be dominated when I'm calling it off on this flop, and especially when I'm betting this flop. At worst, I have something like ace-jack suited against him. And so, again, first example, this is why these games are so profitable. We have opponents like this that are overplaying weak ace X type of hands in 3-bet pots, and really even just overplaying these hands in a standard raised pot as well. They're always going to find themselves dominated with a hand like ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, ace king type of hands. So that's the first example. Let me pause the video and I'll be back in 1 second with another example. Okay, so we're back with another hand where I have pocket tens in the big blind. And we have an opponent that raises in cutoff, standard 3x raise. I think he's fairly fishy. I believe that he's fairly fishy because he only has 80 big blinds to start off the hand with. And so we decide to flat call with the pocket tens, and we spike middle set. This is a bit of a wet board texture, and I believe, again, I had reads on this opponent that he was super fishy and that he overplayed his hands and that he was not a good player. So what I did was I let out into the pot, where typically this is a great spot where I would check raise against an opponent, but I felt like I got value by him by leading into him. And when he calls, at this point, I think his range is fairly wide. I think he could have a straight draw, he could have top pair, could even have 2 pair, which is but highly unlikely because I do block 10x type of hands with my pocket tens. We hit the pure nuts on the turn, which is always nice. It's always nice to hit quads against an opponent where you know they have a good hand. At this point in time, again, if he has a draw, if he had hearts, then he picked up a flush draw as well. So I think this is a hand where if I check, I think that it's going to induce him to bet. And so that's what I do is I check. He leads out 97 cents into 175 pot. And, not that big of a bet. But in terms of the stack size, I need to raise it. So I do a super fishy small raise here. I do a min raise against him. And this is something I would never do on the turn against a competent opponent. I would never check min raise simply because of the Beluga theorem. Check raises on the turn mean the pure nuts. But against a fishy opponent like this, where I think I'm going to get tons of calls, I wanted to build a pot to be able to jam the river and to allow him to call. And by just check calling there, it doesn't make any sense. And also, because I have the pure nuts, I don't want him to fold. So I think that because I let out on the flop and he called, and the 10 doesn't really change that much, that I think he's going to call with the straight draws, his flush draws that he hit on the backdoor flush draw, and also his top pair type of a hand. Now, I don't ever think that he has queens plus because I think the money is going in either on the flop or on the turn. And the way that he bets the small on the turn, I really don't ever think he has queens or kings or aces. So with that said, he flat calls. Again, the queen, again, is an amazing card for me. And I size it perfectly, so I have just under a pot size bet. And so I just put them all in, and he calls, and he shows Jack King off. So again, an opponent like this is going to pay you off with top pair with a good kicker. Yeah, he did have a backdoor straight draw with his Jack, but he missed on the turn. It didn't improve. And by the time that he called my check raise on the turn, I felt the money was going to go in. His biggest mistakes, calling a check raise on the turn, but the problem is that I gave him a really good price, and he's a fishy opponent, and he's not going to fold top pair. To him, that's the nuts. Him calling the river jam, again, a terrible play. But again, that's why these stakes are so profitable. So let's do one more example. Let me pause the video and find another interesting, fun hand. Okay, so on to our third and final hand, and this one is a bit of a head scratcher. So let's get into it. So I have ace king under the gun. I make it 3.5x, and we get multiple calls going to the flop. Again, tons of fishy players, because anybody that doesn't have a $10 stack, which is a 100 big blind stack, I'm automatically tagging them as a fish. So all three of these players up here, I think, are bad players. And then these two opponents, possibly decent. So we flop trips with the backdoor nut straight draw, but again, this is a bit of a wet board texture. So I think we get tons of value from all sorts of hands. Queen jack, ace queen, queen 9, jack 9, all sorts of different hands, and also weaker king, so king queen, those type of hands as well. The only thing that beats us, which would be a huge cooler, would be king 10 or pocket 10s. But as you can see, there's tons of hands where people can call. So I lead out 125 into 150. I lead out pretty big because, again, I think there's tons of people that can call with all sorts of draws, and we have three opponents to go for value and also protect our hand. So we do get a call from this player, and both the other opponents fold. The 3 is a complete blank. I lead out huge again, 340 into $4. He raises all in. I call, and we win the hand. But let's actually take a look at his hand. 10-5 offsuit. So let's go back to the turn. What in the world is this guy thinking when I'm firing 2 barrels and I'm leading into 3 different opponents, and he decides to min raise jam? He has less than what I initially raised to go all in with a pair of 10s with a 5 kicker. I mean, even if I have 10-9, I haven't beat for 10-9 suited, or ace 10 or jack 10 or queen 10, any of those. So yeah, this is really a head scratcher. I don't think I could potentially be bluffing, but typically people don't bluff at the micro stakes. At least a lot of the regs don't at 5NL and 10NL. They bluff a lot less than you think. So, and typically people aren't leading into 3 opponents with a pure bluff. So I don't know what he's thinking here, but the all-in jam is quite funny, and we take down a huge hand. So I could go on and on and on and on, just to show you how bad some of these opponents can be. And a lot of people will tell you the games have gotten a lot harder. Yeah, they've gotten harder because there's a lot more competent people, especially because there's a lot of resources. We have classes like mine where I have thousands of people enrolled. And these thousands of people, if they never took my course, they wouldn't be as good as they are now. But there's tons of resources out there. The books are better. The video training sites are better. It's just a lot easier for you to improve your game than it was in the past. But if you know how to look for and play against the bad opponents, the games are still more than soft enough, because the good players don't stay at these limits. They move up. Now, I'm staying at these limits because this is what I teach and what I like to teach for fun. But those players that are striving to make money on the side playing poker, they don't stay at 2NL, 4NL, 5NL, or 10NL for a long time. They move up to 20NL, 25NL, 30NL. I even have one student that went from the micro stakes playing 5NL over a year ago, and within around a year, he's up to playing 200NL games after taking my courses and using those as fundamentals and going on. So that just goes to show you that the good players are going to move on, the bad players are going to stay, and I play for fun, so I stay at these games, and it's really just to highlight and show you that there's tons of bad players, and that's why these games are so profitable. And so don't think that they're not. And I'm looking forward to teaching you how to extract as much money as possible against these bad opponents in my course. So I look forward to seeing you in the course. Just wanted to do this video at the beginning just to show you how easy it can be if you pick your right spots and you get a lot of value with your made hands against bad players at the micro stakes. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next video.